Fans of the Horus Heresy, thank you very much for joining me for my latest instalment of build videos talking about the Orion class dropship. So, following on from the time-lapse video where I assembled the majority of the model, I've just got a couple of things to talk to you about in terms of that assembly process and a few things that I did, and a bit of a disaster that happened to me, which has been recovered since, and then we're also going to do a little bit of magnetization of the rear access ramp. So yeah, a bit of a variety video. So let's start. Where should we start? Shall we start? Oh, let's start with the cataclysmic disaster. Gosh, I've got to admit, in all the time I've been modeling resin kits, I've never ever made such a whoopsie as this. Yes, it was a bit of a shock. Right, so because I'm going to paint the interior of this model, I've not stuck the bottom onto the top yet. And there you go. We're a bit close in at the moment, but I'm sure you can see what that means. And after finishing doing the assembly work, I went to pick the model up one day and I just forgot that it wasn't connected, and the bottom fell off like that. And this thing smashed into the ground and the ramp broke. And I thought, oh my goodness me. So once I'd come round and I'd stopped swearing, I picked up the parts and had a look, and this pin here had broken, and I thought, oh goodness me. Of course, to assemble this, the pins are held in place by these two parts being attached, and obviously these are, with all the pinning and gluing and filling I've done, these are well and truly firmly attached, so there's no getting those off, and I don't want to take them off. So I was like, well, how can I recover this broken part? So what I ended up doing was rebuilding this pin here. And what I did was I cut away the damaged pin and I ditched the old pin, and I built this pin here out of some sprue, and then I put a metal pin into it, which you can see part of poking through there, so I've not yet filled it over. And then I had to carefully drill a hole into the ramp and slit some sort of rod part to give me space to leave the pin in. So of course I had to then squeeze this whole thing back in, and doing the equivalent of what I can only describe as open heart surgery for resin models, I managed to get it back together again. And now, thank goodness, I'm back in a position of where this model is has a functioning ramp. But goodness me, it gave me such a shock. Whew! So that was my little disaster, but we've recovered from that. So let's talk about just the last few, I guess, tips and thoughts from the assembly of the Orion. So first, I suppose, first thing is these large heavy Arachnus blaze cannons. I've only tacked them on for the moment because I want to finish the painting, well, do the painting inside the interior. Then I'll stick it together and I'll get all this filled and smoothed up and this bit around here. And then finally, I'll attach the cannon, and I may even actually paint these separately because as you can see, they're going to be quite large things that will get in the way of actually painting the lower hull. So that was the first little thing. The second thing was around the nose turrets, side nose turrets. Now these come with a little pin that's designed to go through here and into here. However, what I did, I decided to magnetize them because I was a bit concerned that the pin might not be strong enough over time. So I put, I can't remember what I put in. These, I think these are 4x3 N35 neodymium magnets. And I put one in there and one in there, and did the same on both sides. And that just means they've got a really good rotation now. And then, you know, they rotate in that axis as well. So that was a neat little thing. I don't know how well the actual pins work, and also because of the way they have to stick, you've got a slight risk of the turret seizing up if your glue goes where you don't want it to. So that's another thought for the advantages of magnetizing those turrets as opposed to actually using the provided pins. What else did we have? The air brakes. So the air brakes are here. Now these are quite fiddly and tricky little things, and they're designed to open, but the hinge mount is a bit loose, so it doesn't actually really hold them in position. So I've just kind of mounted them like that, and I don't know if I'll stick them in a position or leave them closed. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet, so I'm not very keen on the idea of them just being loose. I mean, it'll damage the final paint scheme if nothing else. But yeah, so that's one thing I'm still thinking about resolving. What else did we have? These air spikes on these engines. I mean, these are super fragile and they're very sharp as well. I'm just having to watch myself with those. I don't spike myself. Very cool design. I'll talk about that in the final model review. Yeah, do watch out for those. What else about construction? Most of this is super glued together. I did epoxy glue though this wing onto the main hull, and I did a couple of pins as well. And that's just because the fit on these was left a bit loose, I think, to basically give you a bit of play with assembling the model. Whereas on these wing to nacelle fit attachments, it was really tight and snug. So because of that, I put a couple of small pins in, and then I glued the core with a fast setting epoxy glue, and then did a super glue capsule in effect around the edge to get an instant join. That worked really well, and that should never break, or unless it gets subjected to extreme damage. And then the final thing is these vertical stabilizers or fins. They quite nice to just go on like that. Now I will stick these in position. I'm kind of like, I've left them like that because it allows me to play around with attitudes while I actually decide what I like with this model rather than sticking them. The instruction manual shows them in this sort of 45-degree angle like that. I'm not so keen on that, and I'm more tending towards perhaps 10 degrees off the vertical. I don't know, I just like the look of it. We'll be able to see more of that when I do a proper review with some views at a distance. But it's a useful thing to know that you don't need to stick these straight away. Mess around with position over maybe a few days and just see which takes your eye if you're not sure what really appeals to you. So I think that's about it in terms of general build commentary around this. The final build is actually pretty straightforward. Once I got all the fiddly little bits done, it was pretty easy, not a difficult thing at all really. Certainly easier than assembling a dreadnought, for example. Right, so I'm going to take the top off, and now we're going to do the magnetization bit. Now, for the magnetization, as I say, I've got these 3x1mm N52 grade neodymium magnets, and the model comes with some nice little pre-drilled positions for them. Now, earlier I was just doing a little push fit on this one, and it sort of it snapped into place perfectly, and it was such a firm fit I can't get it out, so I've decided just to leave it there, and I'll just run a bit of glue over the top. So that shows, you know, the pre-drilled for 3x1mm magnets. Now the corresponding attachment point, which is here on the hull, or the upper hull, also has a point drilled. But I really wanted to put 2 magnets in, but I can't do that down there now, so I'm going to drill this out a little bit for a second magnet. And here we've got a 3mm metal drill, so I just need to carefully increase the depth of this a little bit. These are brand new metal drills which I bought for doing models, and they're very sharp, so I don't need to put overly large amounts of pressure on. That's almost already, so just a little bit more material taking out. I think we're there. Let's have a look, what's that like? That's just a little proud. Oops. So I'll take a bit more out. I've been thinking about the colours to paint the interior of this, and because of, and a few of you guys and girls have been asking me about it in the comments, and because of the fact that it's quite an enclosed space and there's no shall I say, windows anywhere to let any light in, I'm going to do it in a very pale colour to make it more visible to see the finished paint job. So I might be going, I'm thinking at the moment for an off-white, pale grey type base. Then some darker details, we'll see. I was wondering maybe I should do it with a white, a sort of a white leather style interior like my car's got. That might be quite fun. And with it being the custodians, I think you can get away with something that looks a little bit more, shall we say, not ostentatious, but a little bit more, I wouldn't say glamorous either, but I don't know, a bit finer or more ornate looking than you would encounter in the Marine Legions. You have a feel that the custodian technology has a much more refined and artistic look to it than the much more austere and practical gear of the Astartes. That's what I'm thinking at the moment. A pale colour, just so it's easier to see. So there's no point in painting it in anything remotely dark, because unless you actually shine a light into it, you won't see anything. But I don't want to have to shine a light into it to appreciate any of the paintwork. Someone else suggested, I just forget who it was, so I do apologise for forgetting your name, but someone suggested the possibility of doing an LED light fit on this. I mean, yes, I've never done an LED light fit. I've watched videos of people who have. What was the one that I really enjoyed? I think it was Dr. Faustus's painting clinic. He did, what was he working on? A tripod model, that was it, from the remake of War of the Worlds, and he put some LEDs in the carapace of that. That looked really good, the end result. I'm guessing you could do that on this, but it's more faffing around than I really want. I'm already bad enough as it is for faffing around and getting my models done, so I don't really want to faff anymore. So I know if I don't get on and start cracking on with painting like this, something else is going to come along and start distracting me. So I've already got half a dozen things I could easily get distracted on, so I think straight onto painting. Talking about getting straight onto things, I've got the magnets recessed to the right depth now. I've got two mounted in the upper hull, and they're one mounted in the door. So I'm just going to mark up the polarities so I stick these in the right way around. Always important to get this bit right. So if we put that in that way around, if I put red on this end, we need to make the red vanish. So let's put some glue on. Just like to remind everybody about the poll that I've got running on what people think of the upcoming 30th anniversary Space Marine model. So 30th anniversary of Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine model that's going to be on sale this weekend. Just set up a fun little poll on it. If you don't use Twitter or you don't want to use Twitter, just leave your answer in the comments of the actual video and I will count all those up as well. Yeah, so don't forget about that, because that's just a little bit of fun. I think I've got another couple of, slightly under a day to run on that before I'll close it off, count the votes, and then do a little tongue-in-cheek announcement video, I think. There we go. That's lovely. Right, where did I put that can of accelerant? I think I was chasing a fly around with it. Don't ask. Right, let's just give that a little squirtle. Oh, and of course the magnets have attached themselves. You always get that when you work. Well, I always get that with magnets. Perhaps I'm just a bit clumsy with my handling of magnets. And now I'm going to run some adhesive over the surface of this magnet to hold it in place. I really don't want to dig it out just to be able to glue it on the underside. I think it will do more harm than good. And a little blast of accelerant just to fix that in position. Like just rather than letting it dry of its own accord, that means we can just put it together now and have a little play. Let's get it all lined up. That's pretty good. Sweet. I'm glad I did a second magnet. I think it needs to. That's a decent hold. I think for purposes of stopping it accidentally open, that will do the trick. So there we go. Well, I've got more videos to come on this yet. The next video I've got to share with you is about how to build and reinforce a flight stand for this model. So that's another one that I've got to show you. I need to edit that. That's quite a long one. It's going to be about an hour when it's all finished. So yeah, do keep an eye out for that. As always, thoughts and comments in the section. Always love to hear what you think. So other than that, I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you next time, and goodbye.